I'd like to talk about the top 5 investment mistakes, more to identify how we can avoid them. Now, the first one on my list is a failure to adequately diversify your investments. Now, what I mean by that is I'll give some examples. I was called in once. There was an 82-year-old widow. She was at her attorney's, and I came there to talk to her about her investments. She did not trust some guy in a suit. She had been invested a certain way her whole life. She wasn't going to change. So I talked to her about diversification and how it can be a very critical thing. And she just looked at me like I was nuts and didn't want to do anything I recommended. Well, that was in 2008. She had $2.5 million, and it was all in one thing, Washington Mutual stock. 3 months later, after our conversation, her net worth was 0. It had gone completely bankrupt because she decided not to diversify. I also wrote a book on asset allocation about eight years ago called The Black Book on Personal Finance. And there was a real-life example. I went to this guy's house. He was an Amazon stock boy. But he was one of their first stock boys. He had stock options. So he had 3 kids, another on the way, in this tiny little apartment. He was making $12 an hour. And he had $1.2 million of exercisable stock options. So I said, exercise them, diversify your assets, buy a house, do the things you need to do. He looked at me like I was nuts. Amazon's the greatest company in the world. I'm not going to do that. Well, this was right before the dot-com crash. Then I said, well, yeah, they're a great company and all that. Sell half of it, buy a house, and leave the other half in Amazon. Nope, wouldn't do it. Well, again, 6 months later, when his strike date came, Amazon stock had dropped from about $80 down to $8. His strike price was in the 30s. His $1.2 million value, the day I talked to him, was now worth 0. But lucky for him, he still had his $12 an hour stock boy job at Amazon, his 3 kids, and another on the way. He didn't want to diversify. Sometimes it's out of fear, sometimes it's out of greed. But whatever you do, make sure you have a proper allocation. The second one is investing without a plan. Now, throughout this conversation that I'm having on this video series, I'm talking about pieces of a plan. All these pieces can work together to really solve retirement questions for somebody. If you don't go through this, if you're not listening to this, then okay, good luck. But I think you're going to pick up enough to say, gosh, planning makes more sense than not planning. But most people spend more time planning one vacation than they spend in their lifetime planning their finances and their retirement. The third one is making emotional decisions. The example I have there is I get the most calls and the most, hey, I want to invest when markets are up. Again, I hardly get any calls when they're down. People like to buy when things are high. They see something happening and they essentially do the opposite every time of what they should do. You should buy when things are low and sell when they're high, not the reverse. But emotionally, that flies in the face of what we think we want to do. So very often I tell people, hey, if you're going to make emotional decisions, go ahead and make it, and then do the exact opposite of what you think you should do, and you'll probably be right more often than not. So emotional decisions can be a big problem. The fourth one is a failure to regularly review your plan and your investments. I can't, these investment statements come, and I'd say 8 out of 10 of my clients say, I've been getting these statements. I don't know what I'm in. I don't know how to read them. An example would be I might meet somebody and say, yeah, I've been running my own investments. And I say, great. How are they doing? They say, I don't know. I said, okay, well, what are you in? He said, well, I'm in mutual funds. I said, okay, well, mutual funds can be in anything. You can be in real estate and bonds and stocks and energy. Didn't tell me much. What kind of mutual funds are you in? You might say, well, I'm in Vanguard. I said, well, Vanguard has 350 different mutual funds in every little thing. How much do you have in stocks? And they're, I don't know. How about bonds? I don't know. What kind of stocks? What kind of bonds? They have no idea. I don't know. I just bought some things a whole long time ago. They're not doing real well. I don't understand them. And that's okay, but you got to review that portfolio or get some help. The fifth one is relying on history to tell you when to buy. So I'll talk about real estate for a second here. Had a client, a dear old guy. He had about $3 million, and he passed away. He left all $3 million to his daughter. His daughter had seen what the real estate market in Arizona had done. And when she inherited this money in 2007, she decided that she was going to take all $3 million out of this account and leverage her money into dozens of rental homes in the Phoenix area. So she did that. She put her 20% down on dozens of homes, put all $3 million into it. Within a year, she was underwater on every house and was bankrupt. So she had been looking at, and I even remember I talked to one person about their financial planning and said, we're doing rental houses. I said, okay, what do you expect the appreciation to be? And I remember he said, 20% a year. I said, wow, 20% a year forever. They said, yes. I said, so that 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in Everett, 20 years from now is going to be worth $3 million. And they said, yes. Okay, I would say that person is relying too heavily on past performance. Generally means the opposite. So we have to be really cognizant when we're looking at historical returns to make our investment decisions.